the purpose of this talk in general is just to let you all know like what a theoretical cryptographer researcher is doing, and why is this topic important, or why is it interesting to us, and maybe not that really related to whatever most of the things that you guys is doing now, but hope to get a little bit more insight for you on these topics that you might not be that familiar with. Okay, so now let's get to the main part. Okay, I'll try to make this talk to be very beginner friendly. I'll try to make this to be interesting as well. And yeah, the cat pictures, hope that I got your attention for this opening slides. I have more cat pictures in the presentation as well. So please, so if you pay attention, then you'll see more cat pictures. All right, okay. So first, I'll talk about some basics in theoretical computer science. So in theoretical computer science, we are concerned with computational problems, meaning what is the difficulty of a problem. For example, we might say that, okay, addition itself could be an easy problem because you just add two things, right? Finding maximum in the list could be something easy as well. You just go through all the elements in the list and you just take the maximum. On the other hand, there are some problems that might seem to be slightly harder. Maybe sorting a list, finding a shortest path given a graph, and some other problems. There might be some other problems that seems to be medium difficulty to solve. And lastly, we have these seemingly harder problems like you guys might be more familiar with, like for example, the integer factorizing problem. Given an integer, you want to factorize to the factors, or the subset sum problem, which basically just give you a list and you want to find a sublist or a subset that sums to a target. So for this problem by itself, integer factoring seems hard and addition seems easy. So we kind of roughly define the hardness here, in a sense that we define the hardness of a problem by the time taken of the best algorithm that we know to solve a problem. So this is a very rough definition. And well, what do you mean by best algorithm? Like you say, okay, integer factorizing, you say that the known problem, the known algorithm so far that you know cannot solve it in a very fast time. But can you say that this problem, this algorithm is the best algorithm that we have so far? So the central question that I'm trying to raise here is, how do we know that a certain algorithm is the best algorithm for a problem? So just give you an overview of the best known algorithms for some of the problems that I mentioned just now. So to find the maximum in a list, the best thing that we can do is just look through all the elements, or the best thing that we know how to do. And for sorting a list, it is quick sort and merge sort. For subset sum problems, is the meet in the middle algorithms. So what these algorithms itself is, it doesn't really important, but there's just list of best known algorithms that we know for all these problems. But so is it possible to do faster than best known algorithms? How do we improve a best known algorithm? And in general, it is very difficult to show that the algorithm is the best, because you kind of have to go through all the possible algorithms in the universe and claim that this is the best algorithm out there. And that's just not very possible to do it. But still, we have some ways to prove some lower bound. And this is usually some very theoretical and also interesting result on its own. So we can say that, okay, we don't really know how, like, what's the best algorithm would take. But of course, your algorithms, no matter how good it is, it will always need to read the input. So the input size is the minimum amount of time for every algorithm that is needed to solve a problem. For example, to find a maximum number in a list, you have to, suppose you have a list of length n, it takes time n to read through all the inputs. You have no choice. Like that's the only thing you can do. You have to go through all the elements there. But then because once you go through all these elements, at the same time, you can also keep track of the maximum. So that is the best algorithm out there. You can't do better than that, which is a kind of a good thing to show. So for this particular problem, that finding a maximum element in a list, looping through the elements to solve it is indeed the best algorithm, because we have to read through all the inputs. Then what about sorting? So sorting, we still have to read through the inputs, sure, but we know the best algorithm that we have, which is the merge sort, it runs in times n log n. But this is still quite far from or slightly, I should say that it is still different from the n, where n is the time to read the inputs. So there's actually a quite phenomenal result that says that we can't do better than n log n, and n log n is the best time. So this proof itself is slightly non-trivial. You require some techniques, and you have to do more things to show this. But what I want to say here is that there is indeed a proof that says that we can't do better than merge sort than n log n. This is the best algorithm that we can get. So then what about the other problems like subset sum? The best algorithms is so far away from the times it takes to read the input. So in subset sum, we takes in the list, and it only takes time n to read the input, but the best algorithm takes exponential time. It takes 2 to the power of n divided by 2, which is a very, very long time. And so then, okay, I've been talking about best algorithms, but why do we even care about like whether a problem, whether the algorithm that we have for a problem is the best algorithm? So we can consider this scenario. Let's say you have a boss that points a gun at you, and you are just a worker, just a employer, a programmer, whatever. And this boss say, okay, optimize the sorting algorithms in our code, because we run so many sorting algorithms, right? And maybe in our code base, this is the bottleneck of our program. And then you say that we are already using merge sort. What do you want me to do? And the boss say, I don't care, just fine. You're just not thinking hard enough. And then we'd be like, what? So this will be this is just a hypothetical scenario, but theoretically speaking, knowing the best thing that we can do is an interesting thing on its own. Like mathematically, it's like something interesting to think of, like whether can we do better or not. So we want to know whether we are in a world that this problem is really, really hard, or we are just not good enough. Like we haven't tried hard enough, and we haven't find the actual algorithm to solve it. So proving lower bound is a very, very difficult and hard task, but it's a very interesting question in theoretical computer science. So now let's also talk about the next thing, which is the classification of problems. In computer science, we try to classify the things that we can solve in certain amount of time. So for example, just now I was saying that, okay, you can solve like finding a maximum in the list in linear time. You can solve sorting in n log n time. So let's just put all these algorithms together, and we call this class P. So class P means that the problem that is efficient to solve. Means if you want a more concrete definition, it means that it's solvable in time polynomial of n, which is what I said just now, the maximum of the list, which is like best algorithm runs in n. Sorting of the list, best algorithm runs in n log n. Matrix multiplication, if you have dimension n, and if you want to multiply two matrices together, the best algorithm is about this n to the power of 2.371. And this is also so this value is a very arbitrary value, and it is possible that we can improve this. And if we improve matrix multiplication, we can do a lot of very, very interesting stuff like train AI faster, whatever. But so far, this is what we have. So if we can improve this, or if we can prove a lower bound that the best matrix algorithm, matrix multiplication algorithm is only this. This is something very spectacular. So then, other than the class P, we also have the class MP. So MP is the class of problems that a solution is efficient to check. Meaning that if I give you a solution to this problem, you can check it in a very fast time. So a quick example, finding a hash inverse. So suppose I give you a Y, a target Y, and your task is to find a pre-image, find an X such that the SHA-256 of this X is equal to Y. So just list out all the best algorithm that you can think of. Okay, maybe you can try to do some brute force, or maybe you can try to do some heuristic ways. But from the assumption that we have, we say that, oh, SHA-256 is hard to inverse and is collision resistant and all the things. We say that it is hard to find an inverse there. But for this particular problem, we have a easy to check solution. Meaning that if you claim that this X is the answer, I can easily verify whether your answer is correct. So if you claim X is the answer, I can verify it by just running 256 SHA-256X and check whether this output is the exact answer that I gave to you. And the other example is the integer factorizing problem. So your task is similar. Given Y, you want to find all the factors of Y. This is very difficult to do in general, but it's very easy to check for the answer. If you claim that X is a factor of Y, I can simply check this by just doing division. So we call all these problems that has a easy to check solution to be called as the problem in class MP. Okay. So far, any questions? Right. Great. Okay. So what is the relationship between P and MP? And we know that, okay, if a problem is efficient to solve, for sure the solution must also be efficient to check. For example, if you are trying to find a sorting algorithm, if you are trying to check whether if you're trying to check, so if you're trying to find a sorted array, a sorted list of a list, you can easily check it in very efficient time. And just not just that, like for example, maybe something like finding a maximum. If you can solve it in efficient time, you can also check it in efficient time, because you can just run the solver and you get the solution. So then you check whether this solution is the right solution. So therefore, we always know that all problem in class P will always be in the class MP, because you can just run the solver to solve it. You don't even need to check. However, the central question that we are asking is, if a problem is efficient to check, can it also be efficient to solve? So this is a very, very, well, intuitively, it's kind of makes sense in a way that, okay, you say that a solution can be easy to check. So if a solution is easy to check, could it be possible that it is also easy to solve? And the class P basically just says that if you are easy to check, you must also be easy to solve. But it seems to be the case that a lot of problems in the world, even if you have a solution that is easy to check, it might not be that easy to solve it. So before talking more about P and MP, I just want to detour a bit and ask, are there any problems out there that the solution is not easy to check? So it might seem very weird that, okay, it might seem very weird that the solution is not easy to check, but I can just give you a very, very simple example for a problem which the solution is not easy to check. Chess. So optimal chess strategy or any optimal game strategy does not have an easy to check solution. Meaning that if I show you an optimal strategy of chess, you can't prove that this is the optimal strategy. Or you can't show that this is the optimal strategy. Because there might be a strategy that is more optimal than yours. How do you claim that your strategy is the most optimal? It's like imagine your chess engine. You say that this chess engine is the best engine, but how do you claim, how do you show that this chess engine is the best engine? There's no easy way to check this. The only way to check this is that you go through all possible strategies in the world, which is like so hard to, like, how do you don't even have the memory, the processing power to go through all possible strategies to the world to do it. And this is one of the instances that problem has a solution that is not efficient to check. The other one is game strategy. So game strategy, just any game, any strategy games that you can think of, or even something more complicated. You can play your League of Legends, play your Valorant, play your Mobile Legends. Just think of the AI. How do you check whether this AI is the most optimal AI, the most optimal strategy to win the game? There's just no easy way to check it. And the other one is the time and resource optimization problem. So for example, now you have like you are managing a airline company, and you want to optimize your fuel budget, or you want to optimize something like your flight schedule. You want to earn as much money as possible, and you want to reduce your cost. So I give you a strategy. I say that this is the optimal solution, but how do you show that? How do you know that this is actually an optimal solution? There's no other way to do it other than just going through all possible solutions in the world and see whether this is the optimal one. So in general, all these kind of numerical problems, they don't have solution that is easy to check. But for the problems that I mentioned just now, which is like the subset sum problems, the hash inverse finding problem, we have exact easy to check solutions. Okay, so then let's talk about P versus NP, the question that some of you might know. So there's this P versus NP millennium problem, which is that if you solve this problem, you get $1 million prize. The problem basically asks this question, just the question that I was asking just now. If a problem is efficient to check, can it also be efficient to solve? If you found a problem that is efficient to check, but it's not efficient to solve, then you basically solve the P versus NP problem. Or you can do it the other way around. You can prove that all problems that is efficient to check can also be efficient to solve. So all these problems that I list out now, finding hash inverse, subset sum problems, set problems. So this set problems is is Boolean set problem. So not sure if you guys have used Z3 set solvers, sum check, whatever, trying to brute force all the solutions. All these set problems, they also have easy to check solution but not easy to solve. They are in NP. Graph coloring problems, which is that you want all your graph to your nodes to have different colors. The AES problem, you want to find an input that comes out with a ciphertext. Even also the integer factorization problem. So all these problems, they are all in NP. They have easy and efficient to check solution, but we don't know whether it is efficient to solve. And all the known best algorithms out there runs in very, very slow time, exponential time. But then there's no proof out there that says that we cannot do better. It might just be that we are not smart enough. So why does this P versus NP matters? Because if P is equal to NP, it means if a problem is efficient to check, it is also efficient to solve. This means that we found fast algorithms to solve many important problems in the world. For example, the set problems. So set problems have some applications in hardware and software verification. I believe if you do taint analysis, code analysis, and whatever, so most of them will also be somewhat related to set problems. DNA sequencing, logistics scheduling, whatever, all this will all be solved very efficiently because all these problems are all efficient to check. But there is a caveat here, which is that if P is equal to NP, cryptography doesn't exist. So in a world of P is equal to NP, it might look something like that. If P is not equal to NP, that means that there might be some problems out there that is efficient to check, but not efficient to solve. This says that some fundamentally important problems are hard, and that is quite sad. But cryptography may or may not exist. So our world doesn't change at all. So now I would just like to explain a little bit on why P equals to NP breaks cryptography. So recall that if P is equal to NP, it means that if a problem is efficient to check, it is also efficient to solve. But cryptography by itself is always efficient to check. Suppose I give you an encrypted ciphertext C. Your task is just to find the message that gives you C. And checking is easy, right? If you say that your message is M, I can always just check it by just running the encryption algorithm again and check whether it matches. So this is efficient to check. Collision resistant inversion secure hash function, they are also all very easy to check. Given a target hash Y, I want to find the pre-image, the X that maps to Y. It is very easy to check. You just run the hash function again. There's a typo here. This should be hash. So this means that if P is equal to NP, all this encryption scheme and all this hash function, collision resistant hash function, inversion secure hash function, we will have a fast algorithm to solve them, to break it. Which is why if P is equal to NP, then we do not have a cryptography anymore. Cryptography is just dead. So, but the problem now is also that we don't really know whether P is equal to NP or P is not equal to NP. So so there's this Impagliazzo 5 worlds that says these are the 5 possible worlds that we are in. And we don't know which one are we in, okay? So the first one is algorithmica, which basically says that P is equal to NP. And the implication that if we live in this world is that everything can be solved very efficiently. We can solve many important problems very fast, yada. And the second world is that if we are in heuristica. So heuristica means that, okay, there might be some problems that are very, very difficult to solve. There are some instances that are very difficult to solve, but the problems are easy on average. Means that if I just sample a random problems for you, it will be easy to solve. A random NP problem with a random input instance, it will be easy to solve. And then the third one is Pestilent. In Pestilent, NP problems are hard on average, but there's also no cryptography, no private key cryptography. In Minicrypt, the next world is that private key cryptography exists, but there's no public key cryptography. And lastly is the Cryptomania, which public key cryptography exists. So to summarize all these things, this is probably what we have. In algorithmica, we get a very good state, like we can solve many important problems. In heuristica, it's not that bad, okay, but most of the problems we can solve very nicely, okay. In Pestilent, it's the worst because we don't get anything at all. We don't have good algorithms to solve the problem, and we also don't have public key and private key cryptography. In Minicrypt, we only have private key cryptography and we don't have public key, which is like quite bad. And finally, in Cryptomania, we have public key cryptography. So in theoretical computer science, we don't really know which land are we in or which world are we in. We could be in any 5 of this and we don't know which one of this is true. So in particular, if today or tomorrow, someone suddenly show that P is equal to NP, all our public key cryptography will be dead. They will be completely eliminated and all of them will get completely broken. So most of the people most of the researcher, we assume that we are living in cryptomania. And this is also a very plausible assumption, because all this, it has people have been trying for so long, so many years, and no one has been able to show that P is equal to MP. And we all believe that P is not equal to MP because there seems to be some problems that are just very, very difficult and very, very hard to solve. And it's not something that we don't really try hard enough, but it's an inherent hardness that we can't really show that this is true. So yeah, so that is the end of the theoretical computer science part. Any questions so far? So if P is really equals to MP, like so we can solve a lot of problems in the world. So we can have very efficient program. We can have very efficient engine. We can solve many engineering problem, which is super nice. But then, of course, you don't get cryptography, which is kind of sad. But maybe you can just send letters. But yeah, I mean, it is very, very likely that we are in cryptomania or mini crypt, and not in the first three world. That's just what we all believe in. All right, so now let's just move on to the other part, which is on theoretical cryptography. So why did I even try to mention about theoretical computer science? Is because it is theoretical cryptography itself is somewhat like a subfield of theoretical computer science, and all cryptography studies work on the assumption that P is not equals to MP. And in cryptography research, we usually do, so there are some main objectives that we want to do. So we could be studying problems that can be used for cryptography. I'll explain more about this later. Constructing new schemes, assuming some problems, optimizing cryptography schemes, and even do some attacks on cryptography schemes. So I would go in depth on all these four. So let's first talk about the construction of scheme. At first, when people try to construct cryptography scheme, it was always something very arbitrary. So imagine a cat, one day, just suddenly say, oh, I came out with an encryption scheme, and it seems that the inverting of this ciphertext seems to be quite hard. And a few days later, the other cat respond and say, I found an efficient algorithm to solve it. And then the cat cries. So then this keeps repeat until at a certain point of time, no cats or no one, after 10 years or 20 years, no one has found an efficient algorithm to break it. Then it just becomes secure in some sense. But this is somewhat very arbitrary, and in theoretical cryptography, we don't really want to do construction based on that. We want to do something based on something more, some assumption that is more concrete. So this is what I call as reliable construction based on reduction, which basically says, okay, so imagine if you have a problem, an MP problem. So let's just take integer factorization, for example. There has been 30 years or more of research on this problem, and no one has been able to find a solution to that. So can we construct a cryptography scheme from this problem? And a common way that people do this is that they say this: okay, if you have a black box algorithm that can solve this MP problem, which is in our case is integer factorization, then you break my scheme. So if you can't solve integer factorization problem, then my scheme is secure. Is that true? That doesn't seem very true. So the real thing that we should try to prove is that if you have a black box algorithm that break my cryptography scheme, then you will solve this MP problem that people has been looking for 30 years. So this is the strong security guarantee that we can have. So maybe let me just give an intuition of why this is not true. Like if you have a black box that solve an MP problem, then you break my scheme. Why this is weak and not sufficient to prove a security of a scheme? Because let's just say this toy encryption program, the only difference is just encrypting 0 and 1. So to encrypt 0, the ciphertext is simply just I sample 3 random primes and I multiply them together. And to encrypt 1, I sample 2 random primes and I multiply them together. So this is just a very, very simple encryption algorithm. And to be more formal, to make it more formal, you can see this. So encryption of 0 is just prime 1 multiplied by prime 2. Encryption of 1 is just prime 1 multiplied by prime 2 and prime 3. And the claim is, well, if you can factor very efficiently, then you can recover the message, right? Because, well, I give you the ciphertext, you just run the factorizing algorithm on this and you check how many factors, how many prime factors they have. And the encryption 1 will always have more prime factors than encryption 0. So then you can recover that. But is there an easier way to break this scheme? So if anyone has some ideas. And well, there's actually a very, very easy way to find out the message, whether it is 0 or 1, without even doing factorization. And the way to do that is that you just look at the bit length of C, because encryption of 1 will always be longer than encryption of 0. And you can just calculate the bit length of that. So then, you don't really need to solve integer factorization problem to break the scheme. It's just, you just check the length of it. So this is a very common problem that people encounter when they are constructing an encryption scheme. They assume that the hard, when they cannot solve the integer factorization problem, then they cannot solve this encryption. They cannot break this encryption scheme. But a lot of times this is not true, right? Your encryption scheme could just be flawed. Like for example, in this case, to encrypt 0, you just do that, and not needing to solve the integer factorizing problem is already enough for you to do that. So that has no security guarantee on this. So this problem then becomes somewhat like a new assumption, a new problem that you just came out with, that this which is to break your scheme, but it has not much relation to the integer factorizing problem. And also one of the few problems that you probably see in CTF. So when we try to construct a scheme, we have to do the other way around. We have to say that if you have a black box that break the scheme, then you can break the NP problems. So in particular, imagine that I have a scheme and you claim that you have an algorithm to break my scheme. So now I need to use your algorithm as a black box to break this NP problem. So this NP problem in particular could be the integer factorizing problem or whatever problems out there. So if you can prove this direction, if you can prove this statement, then this means that your scheme is secure. Why? Because if someone breaks your scheme, then they break the NP problem, and we believe the NP problem is hard. So we call this to be a problem reduction, which says that we reduce this NP problem to a cryptography scheme. So now the interesting question is this: does integer factorization reduces to RSA? So what does this mean? It means that if I have a black box, so if someone out there suddenly say that you give me any RSA problem, I can solve it. Can I use this guy algorithm as a black box to solve integer factorization? And you might be surprised, but that's actually not known. So given a black box solver for RSA, we don't know how to solve the integer factorization problem. It means that it could be possible in a world that someone found an RSA algorithm that solves all RSA problems in the world, but integer factorization is still hard. So this puts RSA in a very weird position that it is not really, the hardness of it is not really related. So you can't really relate the hardness of RSA by integer factorization problem. It just says that if you can solve integer factorization problem, then you can solve RSA. But it doesn't say the other way around. And the other way around is the more important way. And in fact, there's actually a crypto system that does this. So for Rabin crypto system, if you can break it, then you can solve integer factorization problem. So this is provable. It means that a black box of algorithm of Rabin crypto system, you can just use it and construct an algorithm that solves the integer factorization problem. So that is the security of Rabin crypto system, and it is much stronger than RSA. But then why are we not using them? Like why are we not using Rabin crypto system? But why do we use so much RSA? Like what's going on in the world? Why people are using a bad secure cryptography scheme? So the answer to this is because in the practical world, it is very common that in cryptography, the hard problem originally does not reduce to a practically used cryptography scheme. So because there are many practical concerns in the world, for example, we have to balance efficiency and security. Rabin crypto system, they have their own problems, which is efficiency is one thing, and there are some other problems as well, which makes it not very popular, and there are some probabilistic things going on in Rabin crypto system, which is like not very good to do it in practice. So then in the end, RSA become more popular and people start to use RSA more, although it is like not reducible to the integer factorizing problem is not reducible to RSA, which is also the reason that there are still many attacks on cryptographic schemes nowadays, because their hardness is not based on an NP problem. And almost all schemes that we use now in practice has their own hard problems, and they are not reducible. So they are not taken from some well-known hard NP problems to here. So AS, Cha-Cha, SHA-256, SHA-3, these are all hard problems on their own. It is not known whether a well-studied problem is reduces to them. It just says when they came out with all this encryption scheme, they just claim that this is hard, and people try to attack it, and people found out that they can't do it, they can't attack it, they can't break it. which is why they say that it is secure, but it has no theoretical implication from a different hard problems. And RSA by itself, I mentioned just now, ECDSA and DSA, they all rely on the discrete logarithm problem, but the discrete logarithm problem is also an island on its own. There's no other there's no really other problems that reduces to the discrete logarithm problem, and which is why this is also something that is like invented in some way, like it was invented to sort of solve the construct a cryptography. And lastly, even the post-quantum scheme in Crystal Kyber, they are relying on the ring LWE problem. And for this ring LWE problem, it also has the same issue that it is not like something that is very well known. It's just constructed just for the cryptographic scheme by itself. So now I can introduce a little bit of what do I actually do in my research. So I study problems that can be used for cryptography, and I'm doing so. Suppose that this problem A is used to do certain crypto protocols, like for example the ring LWE example that I give just now. So it means that breaking the crypto protocol will solve this problem A. And there are two ways to do research here. So you either try to find an attack on this problem A, or you trying to find a reduction from other problems to this problem A. So if you find a reduction from other problems to this, then that will be some evidence of security on your scheme that you just crafted. So for this, so I have two papers now. So for the first paper, I basically reduces this search random local function problem to the decision random local function problem, which is like not very popular, but theoretically is like something that people look into. Not very interesting in the in practically. And this gives security guarantee for the schemes that uses the decision random local function as the base problem for their security. And for the other one, we reduces the search scaling problem to the decision scaling problems. And decision scaling problems has recently found some interesting applications, and that also sort of say some evidence of hardness of that for that. And yeah, so now let me just talk about some other interesting research topic in cryptography. So the first thing is post-quantum crypto. Okay, so in post-quantum crypto, we basically study the cryptography and we hope that this is secure against quantum computers. And quantum computers is believed to not be able to solve all NP problems, and which is why only a few problems are affected, like the integer factorization problem and the DLP problem. So the problems that I mentioned just now in my paper, which is the K-Lean problems and the random local function problem, so all of them, they don't really find any you don't really find any significant advantage by using a quantum computers to attack it. So that's on post-quantum crypto. Then on quantum crypto, you study doing cryptography using quantum computers. So you assume that your client has quantum computers and your server is also has a quantum computers. So what can you do with that? And there are some very interesting protocols like quantum key distributions, even without relying on some hard problems. So then, I'll just finish the rest of the talk by just introducing some other interesting fields in cryptography that people also have been looking at. So for advanced crypto primitives, recently very popular, which is the multi-party computations, which says that I have multiple parties and each parties have their private inputs and they want to compute a joint function. How do they do it without revealing their private inputs and without a third party? So you can consider the salary average problem. So you want to keep your salary secret. So imagine a group of friends. You want to keep your salary secret, but you also want to know the average of your salaries. So how do you do it? Like how do you average the salary of your group of friends without reviewing the actual salary to them? So multi-party computations basically solve this problem and says that, okay, you can do some protocols to do it, and you can do it securely. And the other one is secure secret sharing, which is split the secret into multiple shares. And if any subset of the parties combine their shares together, they recover the secret. Fully homomorphic encryption, allowing computations to be done on encrypted ciphertext. So not all ciphertexts can do this. So a very recent and interesting use case for fully homomorphic encryption is that if you can give an encrypted prompt to AI, and AI can do the evaluation on your encrypted ciphertext, then you can preserve the user input privacy, because because the user at first will encrypt the prompt and send this encrypted prompt to the server, and the server runs the AI on this encrypted ciphertext, and in the end it is returned back to user. So because it is encrypted, the server knows nothing about your input, but then the computation is done on your on the inputs itself, which is why you still get the output that you want, and the privacy is preserved. So this is relatively popular field now, and a lot of papers, a lot of works are doing on this fully homomorphic encryption. And there are some other ones like zero knowledge proof, interactive proof, which is like you want to prove that prove to someone that you know a solution of NP problems without reviewing them. So this can be used for decentralized proving of knowing password identity. There are some blockchain usage. I think if you do the cryptocurrency stuff, many of that will also use some zero knowledge proof and interactive proof to do a lot of verification. So this has found many applications there. And finally, the I/O, indistinguishability obfuscation. This sounds very hard to understand, but it's actually very easy. So the things that I/O do is that I take in a program or any function, and you want to obfuscate it maximally so that it only maintains the same input output. So you maintain the same functionality of the program, but you obfuscate it maximally such that it becomes completely, you don't really know what is going on. The only way that you know what is going on is just querying it by black box. So the security requirement for this is that for any two programs, P1, P2, with the same functionality, if you put it inside this I/O, then these two programs becomes indistinguishable. So you can imagine all the possible ways out there to calculate 1 + 1. So you can have a program that calculate 1 + 1, which is like just 1 + 1, or addition of two inputs, like A plus B. Then this program just gives you A plus B, right? But you can also do A plus B minus A plus B plus A plus B, which is like do redundant repetition of the same programs, and you know that the output is the same, the input output is the same, but the program complexity is different. So for this one, it basically says that no matter how much your input program differs, right? Like as long as it just maintains the same functionality, it can obfuscate it to the way that it becomes very random. And the only way that you know what it's doing is just querying all the possible inputs. So this is the reverse engineer worst dream. And yeah, and in fact, we can do some I/O now. There's a very recent construction in 2020, which is like 4 to 5 years ago, and they basically obfuscate a short Boolean function to something of a size of gigabyte, which is like still very bad efficiency wise, but they are doing some things. So this is also some very interesting topic to look into. And the other research field that is also very popular is the optimizing part. So we can do software accelerations, speed up multiplications of polynomials using FFT, NTT, make the protocols that you do parallelizable, hardware accelerations, design circuits, design ICs to do encryption on the hardware. There's also this field programmable gate arrays, which is that you can program the circuits in the processor itself. So then this becomes something that can be run very, very fast. And cryptography attacks, side channel analysis, attacks using timing, voltage, EM wave, chip leakage, and then you can collect the traces and then perform key recovery. Fault injection, inject voltage into your chips, inject maybe try to change the EM wave and try to get a bit flip and skip the instruction. Sometimes this could also result in key recovery. So yeah, I think I took a little bit too long. So this is the last slide. So finally, I just want to say that there's a lot of interesting things that we are doing, and although it might seem not very practical, but well, it's interesting problem. These are all very interesting problems to think about. And in cryptography itself, advanced crypto primitives has found many practical applications. And yeah, so thank you for your attention.